do we want to change that title there? All right, guys. So, well, without further ado, this assignment is due November 9th. Basically, we're making a game in a group of people in the digital animation and game design program over at Ferris State University. We have a game programming 2 course. This one goes over Unreal Engine. Specifically Unreal Engine version 5.6.1 at the current moment. And this assignment is pretty, I'm not going to say easy by any means, but I'm definitely going to say it's doable. And there's a lot of things that we might be able to go further. And I wanted to stream this mainly to make sure that I stay on task. So here it talks about creating a structure, the following data, character name, icon, mesh, health, defense, damage, attack speed is melee. You can add and remove as many data types as appropriate to the character you are developing. Create a data table to the structure you created. Add 3 rows of the data table and modify it for each entry. So you need 3 characters. Remember, each character is going to have a different mesh, a different name. And then create mechanics and or UI. We're definitely going to work on the UI. And then mechanics. I think this is going to be better. Mainly because the scope of the assignment. Not necessarily this assignment in particular, but the game as a whole. This is a solo project, and then this here and this here are group assignments. So this is a group, this is a solo, this is a group. Now, with what we have going on here, we have group members, right? So with that being said, I had previously set up a lot of this for the group, including having different areas for levels, for testing stuff, using some interface stuff, so on and so forth. And to give you an indication of what we got, I got like some basic AI. As you can tell, a mesh that's not animating that the player is using. If I tap E, the mesh changes, and that one is animating. So I do have part of this assignment done. However, as I was going to say, that part is a shared part between everybody, right? So, and that is something that I had made, but the assignment specifically wants multiple things. And if we take a look here, I put in areas for the other 2 people. So what I think I'm going to do, first off, I'm going to delete my little AI guy for now. That's fine. What I'm going to do is go ahead and make a new structure, really. Like this, this is nice and all. It's really exactly what we need. But I definitely don't want to be doing the homework for the other 2 people, right? So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go to blueprint, go to structure. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to just make a new folder here. I'm going to call it my name, then go back to blueprint, structure. We're going to come in here. All right, so I'm going to put that on the other side of my screen here, and I'm going to click on the assignment requirements. I kind of like to have, viewing what I'm looking at. It's quite helpful. So here we're going to need a name. And before I set types, I'm just going to not really worry about that. We're just going to put in stuff for a minute. So we need an icon. We're going to need a mesh. And we're going to need some stats here. So I'm going to call this max health. Then we're going to call this one attack, defense. Is this going to be like speed? I'm going to call movement speed. The weird part about damage, right, being a stat, like your attack does some math with the defense to create damage. That's but he does want following data and remove data types as appropriate to the characters you are developing. I think mainly what he means by this line here is we don't necessarily have to have, but he definitely doesn't want it to be sparse. So attack, defense, movement, speed, and max health. Let's go with like magic. I'll call it magic damage, and we'll go with range damages. Gonna kind of like think about this as RuneScape for a minute here. Okay, so we need a name. This is gonna be like a texture. I think it's gonna be a texture sample. Not entirely positive here. Texture 2D. We'll come back to that. Very likely you're gonna see me going back and forth on this one. I'm just gonna call it a texture for now. Now this mesh one, I do at least have an idea. It needs to be a skeletal mesh. And I think it's should be that. And these are going to be floats. Now the easier thing is after you set a data type, when you start adding past that, right? So these are all going to be floats. If I made this bottom one like a string, then the rest are going to be strings. That's probably the better way to go about that instead of how I did it. And the tooltip here, this is the stats for assignment 3 for DA GE 355. All right. That's unnecessary, but I digress. So we have a structure here, and I'm going to go back to data tables. I'm going to make another folder, give it my name, right click, we're going to go to blueprint, and we're looking for a data table. So I actually believe that's in miscellaneous and data table. And we're going to use, I call it structure, assignment 3. We're going to call this DT, assignment 3, table. All right, and I'm going to add. So we have our 3 rows. We're going to call this first character, let's go with a berserker. Berserk. This guy, he's going to be our I'm not going to call it range, that's weird. Archer. And we'll call this our mage. And then, of course, we have these different areas we can fill out at the bottom. This icon, I think we can set here. Same with the mesh. So we're definitely going to want to play around with that. For this guy, we're going to go ahead and do like that. I'm going to set his max health to 100. Attack, I mean, he's a berserker, right? Like, he's going to be slapping shit. So let's call that like 25. And his defense, I mean, he's pretty tough. You know, 18 defense sounds about right, but he's probably pretty slow. And I am going to have this into the character movement, so we're going to call that like 250. But he's got like no magic, no range. Our archer, very similar. He's going to have our 100 health. His attack is going to be 0. Defense, I mean, he's kind of squishy, so we're going to call that 8. But he's pretty quick, right? So he's got like a 520, 0, and then for his range damage, I mean, he's like a glass cannon, so we're going to call that 50. Our mage, he's going to have 33 magic, because you know what? 33 or 77. Kind of sounds like a nice little witchy number there. 100, 0, let's give him like somewhere in the middle, so like 12-ish. And his movement speed, let's just go with 400. All right, so we do want to get some meshes and some textures here. So I am not really an artist, however, we're gonna do our best here. I'm just gonna make a couple quick little thingies. So berserker, a mage, and a ranger. Let's see. Let me look up what a bow from old school RuneScape looks like. Yeah, we ain't drawing that very quickly, but we're gonna do our due diligence here. So I'm just gonna kind of go like this, a little bow thing. Yep, that's about ish, right? About like okay, you know. And then we're just gonna kind of go like a loop. It wasn't terrible. I've seen worse. out of me. So that's, I mean, it's not. I mean, it's pretty bad, but it's probably okay. Oh, go like this. All right, and a little depth to that maybe. You know what? We're not going to spend a terrible amount of time on this. That's fine. It looks bad, absolutely, but we have a thing. So we're gonna just go into downloads and call this bow. Export. And we're gonna make like a sword-looking thing. Ish. This time I'm gonna use like a little helper guide. Probably about yay. That. It's fine. Come through here. It's probably too long. That's okay. Now we're just gonna make it look sharp. Ish, you know. Oh. And thin it out here. Give it like a little handle looking thing. Oh, that kind of just defeated the purpose there. Yeah, don't take lessons from me for art. You'll fail life. so don't do that. That's probably fine. Probably awful, but also probably just okay, you know. Okay, our really bad looking sword. Yeah. All right. Gonna try to grab it ish. Yep. Boom. Boom. Kind of a stickler for making sure my sprites are at least kind of, sort of. So that's our sword guy. Bam. File new. Make like a wizard hat looking thing. I kind of got an idea, so we're just gonna outline it, right? Kind of like a thing there. It's like the probably wrong ish, something like that, and then we're gonna like swoop it around, kind of like that. This will be dark, that'll be light. We'll grab like a different color for the outline, throw it on. You know, this isn't about the art here, this is just about having a quick little placeholder. Bam. And then we'll make the hat like a wizard's blue. And then technically, right, like the outline should be just kind of like a darker thing. Honestly, that's fine. That needs to be a little darker. Yeah, okay. So we got a nice little this little wizard's hat. Honestly, that's not terrible. For kind of impressed with myself with the with all the sprites I just made, because it's honestly not horrible. I can tell what they are. All right, so I'm gonna come in here into Unreal. Ooh. Go here. I'm gonna go into. You know what? I'm gonna make a folder. Oop. I'm gonna call this like that. Downloads. Bam. Bam. All right. We got that. I do believe this texture data. I gotta do like a thing. I forget exactly what that is, but it is a thing here. Something with like map. You know what? We're not worried about it. It's fine. Sword. Bow. Alright, so we do have some texture data there now. So that's looking, it's looking like we got something going, right? And we got like this little widget thing. I did open up this widget panel before I started the stream, but I figured, you know, probably fine. We do have an image slot here, so I'm gonna bring in the image like that. For now, we're just gonna make like a little icon, a little like character icon here. I'm gonna make it about yay big. What are we looking at? What? 80 by 80. Let's also make this 80 by 80. Try to keep things at least somewhat similar. So you're 240, let's make you 720. That means you should also be 240. 720 plus 120 is 840. Okay, it's not 840 there. There we are. Now, they're kind of, sort of off. And you know what? We're going to make this guy a little bigger by double. So 160 by 160. And this here, he's going to have some text on him. Call this health text. I can find that text, that'd be brilliant here. How about you? Can we just like set your color for a second? All right. So we're gonna call this HP. It's fine. I'm just kind of looking at the other thing we got here. So we need HP defense. Actually, better at the structure. HP attack defense. Righty. Ba ba ba. Actually, you know what? We're just gonna duplicate that guy. No, I guess not. Huh, can't have more children than that. Interesting. And we're just gonna straight up not have children of it. Where you be? You come this way. So HP attack. Defense. HP attack defense. Movement speed. And magic in the other. I'm going to put the magic in the range over top of this guy. Actually, we're actually going to just leave it as attack. We're gonna change some things. Other than that, you'll definitely see what I mean later. We just need movement speed. And I'm only labeling these guys for now. That won't be the actual text that shows. It'll be a little different. And then that's fine. We're just going to call that HP like that. All of those are going to be variables because we're going to have to be able to change these. So those are all variables. I'm going to compile. Save that area as well, since Unreal likes to crash from time to time. Alright, so this is going to be our image here, our icon. I'm going to add just one more text up here, and we're going to call this name, character name. That. Just kind of sort of looking. Only other thing real quick that I'm going to do is I'm just going to anchor these to anchor him to like the left there. Compile, and then we're going to come up to our level blueprint here, and we're going to set a HUD because I don't want it to affect the other HUD people, their stuff that they will be doing. But I do believe inside of game let me think here for a minute. It's going to be setup BP HUD. This here would be the main area where you'd like add the widget blueprint guy. I don't think it's called add widget blue component. I think it's like there's something that's set to viewport. It's like can I like get HUD? Get exactly how that goes. Luckily for me, I don't have to entirely remember. If I go into just seeing here, so that's that. Where's Unreal Group here? This one. I'm going to look at how that HUD is set up. Oh, it's going to be here. And we're looking for that HUD there. So we're going to go into the level. Components. Map L template. Then here, open level blueprint. Create WD widget. Add to viewport. So very similar. We're going to do the same thing. So create WD and this one is going to be, what do I call it, like assignment something like that. Owning player should be player controller, and then we got a set to viewport. Add to viewport, not set. Add to viewport. And that's going to be the target. Compile, boom, play. Should see a HUD. All right, fantastic. I'm going to close out of the other guy. Now, currently, this player, he can change. And the logic there, I already wrote, and we're going to do a very similar thing. But we also want to be setting these variables on the change, that type of stuff. So, you know, there's going to be a couple things just because I'm going to tear apart the other character and then kind of redo him. Now, this right now is everybody's character, right? And I don't want to disturb other people's potential work here. So I'm going to make a duplicate. And I'm going to call this BP_player_Brett. And then I'm going to move him into my folder. And we're also going to go over to setup and BP game mode. And under BP player, we're going to use this one. It's going to be the same exact thing right now, except his his animations did break, which is absolutely fine. Just go into here. So we're using a interface, not an interface. We're using a well, hold on before I mistalk. Look here. We're using a component, and that component I listed here as BPC character type. Have this change here. Right now, just toggles between 2 and a bunch of if statements. We're not going to do it entirely like this. In fact, I'm going to duplicate this as well. Character swap Brett, and just make a new folder. The reason I'm doing this is just to make sure they don't have to use what I'm using type of stuff. This choose character is part of this here. That looks like a hell of a mess. So what did I do? I was choosing a character. Interesting. I'll go back to the event graph. I'm going to call this test. We're going to go and we're going to start closing out some of this stuff. Oh. Add test. I don't think that's going to work. Definitely did not work. Right. So here's kind of like the thing here. And I think what I'm going to do is redo this entire thing as well. We're gonna start from scratch here. So the idea, let's get out some notepad. Yeah, okay. So what we want to do is we want to completely change the character and have it take what is kind of already set up for us, right? We don't want a whole lot of stuff here. Now this character type structure, that's the main reason it wasn't doing that animation, by the way, because we're changing structures here. So we're going to go into, let's go into data tables, and we have this data table here. This is what we really want to access, but it uses that structure from here. this assignment 3 structure. So what we're going to do, I'm going to go back to the choose character area, or well, the component itself should have this as a variable. So here, add a variable, characters, and this is going to be structure 3 assignment. Compile, and inside choose character, we're going to grab characters, and I'm going to say, let's do like a break here. This shows us all of our stuff, right? Now this is already set up for us. We have this character, this character, this character. And for now, I really want to be able to see the icon. I think that's going to be a good way to decompartmentalize these moving pieces here. Is can we change this image based off of what data table we start with that's going to be passed to the player as a component. So here, since this is a variable, I'm going to go into here and go as get image. Wonder if I have to do anything else to that. This is going to be something I'm going to look up here. So we're going to go to how to, because this is this image allows you to display a slate brush or a texture or material in the UI. So how to change a texture in a user widget. We're going to scroll down here. Just kind of look through this.
Hello, and welcome to this course on building configurators in UE4. This course will have all the skills found in the root of the zip.
Yeah, it looks like just kind of his course introduction.
All we need to do now is put it to work. Back up by our 1 key, let's go ahead and delete 3 of the 4 move forward functions and their related inputs. Let's give ourselves a little, change the value of the variable, in this case for data. We use them to store all types of data, numbers, strings, arrays, and a multitude of container shapes properly known as variable types exist. For our offset, we need a vector. Let's go ahead and
so he's going to be using vectors there. What we really want is a texture. Interesting. This here might be.
And go ahead and begin that now. This should be a pretty quick one. Data structures, and we're going to get them all in here. look at those.
Oh, he's going to start with an XML.
Let's minimize.
And then he's going to import it.
And we can make this text. And we can add an integer. The pennies that it would take. It's all one word, so I shouldn't have put the spaces.
So this is a pretty good resource here, but definitely not exactly what I'm looking for. Because what I'm looking for here is wanting to change this image here as the actual, an actual image. Let's see here. That's going to open in Visual Studio. Let's see, alignment, brush, image. Yeah, so this image can change. And that was under brush. So if we're in the graph, so okay, so that's where our brush is. And this pre-construct, interesting. So this is going to set our texture. Like right now, if I was to hard code it, should be a sword there. But we don't want it to be hard coded, of course. We want this texture to come from our data table. I wonder if we want a reference to the player. I mean, that's probably one way to go about it, right? Reference the player has this, then we can go into that and grab this. I think there's probably a better way to go about it. I'd like to, I don't want to use a pure ref system, though that would be a way. With the interface, we go with an interface, we can send a message. So let me try like a I don't know. Can we can add an interface here. It's going to be the one who implements it. We want this one to call it. So this one should be an interface from the location we're going to call it from, which would technically be in the component. So kind of looking for where my interface is here. Usually, and I'll kind of show you, usually when you have an interface, it'll populate. So for example, if we had an interface here, you know what? I think the reason why is maybe that. There's interfaces there. Come back here. Ah, all right. So that's our interface. We want it to message the UI when a change has been made, and the change should be based off of the thing. The starting character is going to be our berserker there. So I suppose let's just set that. So we'll get this. We'll split them like that. Gonna kind of make sure I've spelled it the same. Ba, 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 ba. Okay, so not positive. But the hope is that this here has this message. It'll set that, and then we're gonna go into our player here. We're going to say event play. I'm going to grab this guy, and then we're going to message the UI. Technically, that's just messaging, setting that. See, this is kind of what we want to do, right? Like, we want to set this. I kind of need, like, I need to slow down a little bit and just kind of think about this, because there's an order of operations here. We pick our character, then that tells the UI what texture to display. So our player is chosen, display the texture. So this doesn't necessarily make sense here. Just gonna kind of go back and forth here for a second, because I definitely want to figure out this. If this sets it to berserk, then this here needs an output. And I wonder, let's output a structure. Kind of like that. we're gonna, if you can't tell, I don't know Unreal Engine very well, so don't expect this to be any type of tutorial. This is just me trying to figure out how to go from, hey, initialize our character, allow that information to be able to be grabbed for this. Because from here, kind of want it like, see, that's a texture 2D. That means this over here, that needs to be a texture 2D. That's our data table. This needs to be a texture 2D. That way those can match. Then it's going to be mad because we need a target. So we are going to grab a player reference here. Because he, actually, it's not going to be technically like that. It's, you know, it's a little more scattered because this is what's going to implement it. So we're going to go, what do we call that? BPC. So get component. Get component by class, and we're looking for a BPC character swap. That's what we want. Now this I believe we're going to have to set yeah, not quite sure. I think we do have to set him. I don't think it's going to be automatically set here. I'm going to have to finagle some things there. Here, you know, I think there's no way that's going to be. Go back to widget here, designer. That image is none. Compile, play, boom. Yeah, So I hit that, and it was mad. Just kind of looking around here. Really don't think that's going to make any difference. Because the error here is access none trying to read player character. Alright, so we do need to set that reference for this guy. Just trying to think, how did I do that previously? My get. Looking at previous work, mainly trying to figure out how I went about setting player references. So let me go into here. Get actor of class. All right. Oh, gotta love all the nodes Unreal has. Right. Get actor of class. We're gonna want that. Think like maybe that afterward. Yeah, that should be fine. So those images should show if we set it up proper. We're gonna try. It didn't seem to work either. Don't think we're far off though, right? Because we're setting the player, and it's looking for its character swap guy. This guy. Just breaking it out. Let's just kind of print what's here. I want to print the name on play. So we're actually not setting any of those. So I kind of want to access that first guy here and just throw it in. Out of curiosity, don't think we're going to see any difference here. I know since I copied this, there might be an underlying. Nope, I did not make a constructor. This is happening when a button's pressed. That attack was still not set though. So we're gonna go ahead and print name. That's probably gonna print like null, none. Yep. Okay. So we just have to figure out how to set based off of the data table. So we're gonna go into here. Can we add a table? Is this a thing? Okay, we're gonna be looking up some stuff here. So we're gonna look up data tables in Unreal. Oh, how to set data using data tables in Unreal 5.
Join Planet Fitness today and save. Just $1 down, $15 a month.
I remember going over a lot of this stuff
Go to the website you love.
in the first 8 weeks of class.
For your words.
However, when you go, that's the thing I was looking for. Get data. That should be right out of the structure though, right? Get data table row. I know I have that in the other project. So this is what we're currently working on. Let's go to the other Unreal project here. Pretty sure there's a data table. Usage would be an entity player. The constructor. This is just straight up a regular node. Oh, you gotta just absolutely hate Unreal. What the heck? So I can't pull out from there, but it just exists, you know? Alright. Well, that's our guy. We don't need that there. So this is our data table. Just kind of looking across at that video. There's get data table row as struct. We're gonna watch the video a little bit. Probably an
Hey everybody,
intro.
welcome to the first episode of this little side series that I will be doing. In today's episode, I will be covering the purpose of data table
And we want
and
here.
much more.
enjoy putting it in the controller. But what I'm going to do here is just data, table, row names. What this is going to do is it's going to get all of the row names, which if you remember are all of these right here, row 0, 1, 1, 2, and 3, and give us an array of them. So now, in order to randomize it, I'm going to go out of this and do random array item, just like this. And then I will do another function, get data table row, just like that.
Well, we really don't want a random there.
We're going to drag this here. And then for the data table, select our data table. So now what we are doing is we are getting a random row name from the data table. So it's going to get one of these row names here.
Okay, I might use random just to follow the tutorial for now.
From that row. And so what we can do now, in order to set our name to that, and I'm just going to do a print string for now and not actually store it anywhere. But what I can do is take this out row here, which is basically the information of the row, or structure. So you'll see here, if I hover over it and do break, I'm going to say break s underscore player name randomizer, which of course is that structure we made. So we're going to go ahead and click on that. And you'll see when I break it here, I have the name and the age now available to me. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just do here a simple print text. Drag that out just a little bit. I'm going to do a format text. Very easy for, or very useful for debugging in my opinion. I'm going to do your generated name is, and then another one, your age is age.
Okay, so what I just did here, this is awful. Never do that. Let me try to pull up a better example here. I don't think you want to do it like this either. So let me go over to stats here, be component child, mechanics, nope, it would be components, all entity, stat system, event graph, no. Where would be a good example that I had? No, because that's doing the exact same thing. You know what? I'm not entirely sure where I put that, to be honest, in the other project, but there's a place where I had maybe, basically it's a place where I had a better setup for that. Maybe it's right here in the collectible itself. Definitely not in the collectible. Maybe it was in here. Nope. Yeah, no. No clue. But generally speaking, you don't want to break and set a bunch of shit. Like, it's generally not what you want to do. I'm going to do it that way because I generally don't know what I'm doing. So I hope that makes sense. And instead of a random here, we're just going to go with the Berserk guy. Play. That did nothing. I think it's because that construct thing just hasn't ran yet. So I suppose we'll do it like this. Right. Okay. So that took a while. You can see the attack icon, and just to make sure. So this is our widget. Here's the archer, and then here's the mage. So we do have that working based off that. Now, for the assignment, he said, you know, if you push 1, 2, or 3, right? So that is pretty simple, I would say, right? Because if 1, if 2, if 3 for here, technically, if we go over to here, we've been using input actions. You can say, for example, press 1 or keyboard 1 like that. If press, do a thing. With that, you know, I don't necessarily like this idea. Enhanced input is the way we should be going about this. And we're going to rechange that name from test. We're going to call this init. That way, we're just kind of initializing what's there. Then we can do like a swap guy. Now, the key, you know, if the key is 1, if the key is 2, if the key is 3, then it's going to do a thing. This enhanced input guy, he does nice things. I do wonder, so we have an action value here. Let me try something. So if we go into setup input here, I'm going to create a new input action. So that's under input action. I'm going to call this number key. And then we're going to link it here. Number key. Now this thing here, right? Like this. If press 1, if press 2, if press 3. That I don't like, because really, you know what? It's fine. We will do that. But it would have been nice to be able to push a button like a default, like any key, and it go, hey, am I a 1? Am I a 2? Am I a 3? If I am, run this function. Instead, I'm going to be having 3 inputs right off player that's going to hit the same function to check for. And I just don't think that's appropriate. But it's fine. So we're going to do this. I'm going to copy this. And that's going to be 2. This is going to be 3. These are all going to be put into the same function here. And it's going to be based off this guy. And we're just going to call it like change character or whatnot. So that's our initialize, yeah, choose character. Okay, so choose character is going to take in an input. It's going to be an integer. We're going to call this number. So that's all that is. I think we could use like a switch here. Something like that. And we're gonna just change that thing, right? So get row. Oh yeah, I gotta remember, it's not a it's just a regular node that you can grab, which is crazy. We're just gonna grab this like this. And go back into choose character, paste it. Each one of these is going to run into the same function. The out row names I don't think we need, because we're using the switch here. Just trying to figure out, because typically, if this was like coding, it'd be like for int I is 0, I is less than whatever, I plus plus, this array at I. Well, I need this array at 1, this array at 2, this array at 3. I don't know how to take this row name and be like at, you know, array 1. That's kind of what I'm looking for here. what I also don't want to do is this situation, because this doesn't seem okay either. I would have to call that function. Choose character. So let me do that. It's called choose character. CHO. Oh. Did I make that private? Because I copy pasted this from the earlier implementation. Well, that's going to be a pain in the ass too, because we don't want that to be like that either. Really not liking this assignment, to be honest with you, because it's a little weird with what he's shown us so far. So yeah, like we can do that, but that's not okay to do. We want it a lot more concise than that. I really don't like that. That bugs me a lot. I really don't like having all of this, because really we want this at like the very least. If like we have to have all keys like this, but this number here must be dependent on what is pressed. So I need this as an integer coming out of it. And I believe like that key value here should be able to, let's check here, how to take a key value from input in Unreal and cast to a int. Get key display name. This is exactly what I was looking for. Is there like an any key guy on there? There is. Interesting. Yep. All right. So then that returns as a name. We want to cast it to an int. Okay, so that's definitely better. But again, there's this problem here. We definitely don't want that. We want it concise. We want all of these to access this. This name is dependent on these. So we do have this number who comes out. This is a switch on int. In a sense. This we don't want that there. So we want to get its row names, and this is dependent on that number. So what is this? Can we... We're going to look up what switch on int is. Because if it's returning a number, I do have to, I think, use this number. Which is weird. Unless I have 3 of these. I don't like that. There should be 1 of these. Like in a sense, these access this, it sets whatever that is. Compile, play. Oh yeah, that's only gonna happen on my button presses. Always outputs 2. Why is that? Because that's how big it is. That's it's the size. And it's printing when completed. So yeah, that does make sense. Right, because this is going to print all 3 on button press. Berserker, Archer, Mage, right? That's why it seems backwards. But we want to set those based off that number. So I suppose we're going to be looking up some more stuff. I have no idea, right? Because to me, if we're using a switch on int, this should have all the really like the things we need. We don't want to be using an if statement if we're using a switch on int. So that's where I'm confused, because if I was using branches, like for example, let me just disconnect this and I'll show why I'm kind of confused here. If this was equal to 1 and we did a branch and this is true, then we could do this, right? Now this would be repeated for 2, for 3, and we would change this. That I want this to happen once. I want the name to be determined based off of what is here. I don't want a branch because the switch on int is a branch, right? And at the end of the day, it's a branch. This here needs to be set based off of this. Or not based off this, but based off this number here. So the number that we take in, when it hits a switch on int, the 1, the 2, the 3, that information is really what we care about. We don't care about the index so much as what, like this is the index here. We are specifying the index. How do I, you know, and that's the problem here. It's like, okay, get index. There's a last index. So if we did this, Well, I am going to ask ChatGPT. It's something I don't like doing. It really pisses me off when I have to resort to, I don't know exactly even what to ask, and I run into a situation like this. Because there's multiple ways to do this, but I want to do it in a way where I feel like it's actually correct, not hacked together. So I'm going to ask it, if I have a switch on int, how can I use its outputs to determine the index of an array? So in Unreal Engine 5, how can I use a switch on int's output to determine an array index? In each output execution pin, you can use a get node with the matching index manually. See, this makes sense. I like coding. I don't like blueprints. This stuff. Okay, my player index. What? The blueprints piss me off. In each output execution pin, you can use a get node with a matching index. Get how do I get element from the switch? For example, switch on int, output 1. Oh, drag your array variables into the graph get node. Set the index pin of the get node manually, 0, 1, 2. Do something with the element. Each output pin leads to a get node that retrieves the appropriate element from the array. You just want one output value. Oh, what does that even do? How do I get from... Okay, I'm just going to tell it straight up. I'm using a data table. It has an output array of row names. How do I use that output to get a array by index? For example, I have a function. It takes in int. I use switch on int to then determine what will happen. But I need the information from the data table to be the index of the number specified. Yeah, this thing fucking sucks, to be honest. Use a function that takes an int as an input, pass the int onto a switch on an int to determine logic. Use a function. Yeah, I have that. Get all the row names. Use your function's int input. Get selection index. Motherfucker, I don't see. When I type in get, I get a copy, get a ref. When I pull from the out row names, I only see get a copy and get a ref. This is excellent. You're super close. That thing bothers me. what do I? Yeah, get a copy. That's the output. That's that. That's the output. That's that. Man, I do not enjoy Unreal Engine at all. It's not just the documentation. Okay, so that's kind of weird. It's not just the documentation that bothers me with Unreal. It's, I suppose, like, specifically not it just being general purpose or any of that. Like, it's good to have an engine that makes things easier, but there is so many nodes here. Like, there's no one person, I guarantee, that knows even 60% of every single node in here. And coming from coding, where if you don't know it, you can look it up, type it out. Unreal, I mean, you're kind of stuck with videos at the end of the day, or AI, or, you know, something that you can read the documentation of and go back and forth on it, which really isn't all that useful, or at least for me in particular. Now, this number hits here. That's why that did that. We want num minus 1, right? Because we have an array size of here, which means it's this. And right now we're accepting these values. So what happens is it gets those, knows what to do with it. 3, it doesn't have a clue. So we want to subtract that by 1. That's fine there. This gives us the, so 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 2, that's 1, that's 3, 1, 2. So that's the beginning. And I do apologize for complaining about Unreal, but it definitely is like Unity a lot to me, where with my school in particular, they are partnered with Epic Games, and they really, really want to prepare us for industry using Epic's, you know, great engine, Unreal. And it's fine, except it's going to be obsolete in 3 years. You know, that's the problem. And you could argue, well, what else are they going to teach you? Unity, this, that, the other. I honestly think they should be teaching us how to make nodes from scratch, like using code, not using nodes in a programming class. I don't think that's correct. You know, that's just my 2 cents on the matter. But I do have class. It starts at 2 o'clock. So I will be getting off here shortly. But we do have an initialization. We do have a key pressed. The data table here. Definitely going to want to, you know, set these this mesh based off that as well. I'm noticing no mesh swap, which is interesting. I think it has something to do with an issue I ran into earlier with the other guy. Let me go into mechanics, character type. Because skeletal mesh component is the problem. So what we really need is a skeletal mesh component object reference. And similar on something didn't like that. Yeah, the mesh had to be a object reference or a component object reference. I am messing up bad there. Just kind of connect those like that. Should see a mesh change. No, we do not. It's the mesh set. Well, that's interesting. Does that show up? That does show up. Doesn't show up. Let me take a look at what the other player. Because we were taking in a mesh reference before. That's right off here. I was hitting it a change. That was under. And that was a set skeletal mesh, I think is what I'm missing. Set skeletal mesh asset. Let me go back here real quick. No, I think that happens after, right? Like, this goes into here. And we're going to set it. Oh. Interesting. So it looks like this is wrong here. So it should be yeah, no, that didn't work either. I'm gonna have to take a deep look at this because I remember having a very similar problem. It looks like in here I'm setting the mesh manually and I set the skeletal mesh to whatever that's at. Well, that is my alarm. So, anyways, let's see what that what the hell? Why is this mad? I do have to go, but I do need to see what the hell is the target here. The target is the mesh. Skeletal mesh component object reference. That is the thing that keeps going back and forth with me on this. I'm gonna look into real quick data tables, player character. I do have a mesh on the old one, so I'm gonna guess you are of mesh type. Skeletal mesh type. Okay, I do unfortunately have to go. I gotta figure this out though. Class is about to start.